Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's Indie Artist Music Hustle with Blind Intelligence. I'm your host, Miss Ronnie, and as always, I need you to hit that like, share, and subscribe button because here we always seek to give you exquisite cranial repertoire. This week, we have a very special guest. We have Nehal. Say hello to everyone.
Hi. My name is Nehal. Thank you so much, Ronnie, for having me.
You're welcome. What we're going to do is we're going to let you take over and tell everyone a little bit about yourself.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Well, yeah, before the episode, we were just talking about, you were asking me where I was from, and it's kind of like a great and complex question for me. I've never had a straightforward answer, and I've always given a different answer because kind of my life path and my history. So if I were to go from the beginning without giving you too long of a bio, I was born in Cairo in Egypt. And when I was little, my parents moved to France for work. And then I grew up in Paris. I lived in Paris for about 15 years. So most of my like childhood and adolescence, and then came to California in my teenage years. Went to high school for from junior to senior year, which was super confusing because I didn't speak English really well, but I managed, and I learned it because I had good friends. And yeah, then just went to school and ended up somehow in the music industry, even though that wasn't at all what I studied. So that's a little bit of my path, and I'm currently living in San Jose, and have a couple of bands, including Sweet HayaH, which is the one that tonight I think we're going to be talking a little bit about it, in kind of in the context of a new song release that we've recently done. So yeah, super excited to be here talking to you.
All right. I find it very interesting. This is off the subject, and it's going to sound crazy to some people, but I believe in past lives, and I believe my first life was in Egypt.
Mm.
So I told my children when it's time for me to be buried, I said, I don't care how many plots you have to buy. I said, I want my body wrapped like a mummy. I want standing up in my tomb. And I said, I want my couch. I want my computer there. I said, because nobody knows what goes on in the afterlife, and I would like to be comfortable because you don't know who I would like to invite over.
I love that. You're gonna have all the old kings and queens coming to visit because time doesn't matter in the afterlife. So
Right.
I'm gonna tell you my grandma's name, which is also in the Steve Wonder song, "Isn't She Lovely?" is Aisha, and so her name was Aisha, and Aisha also means life in Arabic, and Haya in Sweet Haya also means life. So our band name kind of is like a little nod to my grandmother and the concept of life, the concept of also life beyond the living. So it's like
Look, I take that. I take that because, like I said, you don't think I'm Egyptian anyway.
I
Tell me, how did you form a band? Did you form the band when you moved to California? Was it like something that happened during COVID where everybody was meeting virtual and decided to get together? I mean, how did you form the band?
That's a good question. And actually, it's we've been together a little while, and I'll tell you. But I think it's funny that you mentioned the COVID thing because I know so many people who got together as bands during the pandemic because all of a sudden they did have this bandwidth, this time to start playing their instruments and practicing and connecting online and saying, when things kind of calm down, let's get together. And there's all these pandemic bands, I like to call them, like pandemic babies, pandemic puppies, pandemic bands. It's a thing.
Babies.
Yeah. But so no, Sweet High has been together since 2011, so it'll be 11 years. It was 11 years, July 20. I should know this. No, August 5th. August 5th is our anniversary. It's coming up this week. Um, and so we'll be together. We'll have been together 11 years or 12 years. I can't count. I'm not very good at math, but so we actually met at an open mic 12 years ago. I'd be just a singer songwriter. I'd go and show up with my keyboard and my my ballads. Most of the time, it was my sad songs at the time. And I met these guys, our former drummer Josh Gardner, and my now current guitarist Devin Moreno, and also former bassist Aaron Marquez. We met one night at this open mic, and I loved what they were playing, and they liked my style, and we were like, "Hey, you want to hang out sometime?" And we got together shortly after because I was lined up to play the San Jose Pride, and I didn't have a backing band, and it was just going to be me. My friend was the vice president at the time, so she was like, "Hey, you want to come and perform?" I was like, "Yeah, it would be cool to have a full band for that." And so the guys hopped on, learned a bunch of my songs, and then later on we started actually writing together and collaborating. And I'm still really close with Josh, a former drummer. His daughter is actually my goddaughter, and she's gonna be my wedding, my little flower girl. And he's coming down from Georgia, where he now lives, to just be at the wedding and play some music with us. And then my former bassist, Aaron, actually had some health issues and had to retire. But my husband / husband to be is our new bass player, and he's been filling in and fulfilling that role. And we also have a trombone player now, which is in the last 5 years. And our new drummer, Kosuke, was actually our old percussionist. So it's kind of like recycled positions in the configuration of the band. So it's a 5-piece band now. And yeah, no, it's been quite the journey. We're continuing our growth, and because of those lineup changes, we've had a lot of I'd say evolution and development in the sound of the band. We started maybe a little bit more on like the rock and funk side of things, and then evolved a little bit more into like a little bit of retro soul, a little jazz, Latin, African drawn melodies, and as of recently, we put out a single that's kind of got a reggae vibe. So we're and all of that is because of personal development, but also just having very different and fresh ideas in the band through the lineup change. So that's been such a cool thing to witness, especially as us like the founding members. Sometimes like your own material or your own ideas feel stale to yourself, and kind of you have this desire to do more than the sum of your parts. And that's been like a nonstop thing with this band, just being able to continue creating and putting out material. We actually have 3 singles. One we just put out, and then the other 2, they're going to come out each season. So we had a summer single, we're going to do a fall, and then a winter single. And they're kind of appropriate, the messages for it. And the genres are actually very broad within these 3 songs, kind of on purpose. And it goes back to that, that nod to diversity and the importance of cultural wealth, and that kind of broad spectrum of perspectives and opinions within music. So
I want you to describe your genre of music as a fruit.
describe our genre of music as a fruit. I like that. Hmm. Okay.
And
Fig.
it's any way you want, because you can
Yeah.
think of yourself as the scientist, and you done made some hybrid plants, and you
Oh,
done
like
took seeds
yeah.
out of this and made it this color and made it juicy like this, but it's called this. I mean, it's all up to your imagination.
Yeah. Well, it would definitely be a purple fig then, which I think a, a lot of times figs when they're ripe, they're kind of purple already. And then when they're dried, they're super sweet. I don't know if you've ever had like candied fig or sweet fig. And it's something that we eat a lot in Egypt and lives on palm trees. And I'm obsessed with palm trees because it's like the American dream, that view of like, California and the sunshine.
Music is sweet.
And the music is sweet, and the music is sweet, and it's supposed to bring you joy, and it's supposed to bring you peace and nourishment. And I think that the fig is a very nourishing fruit that, like during Ramadan, when people are fasting, they eat figs to help them sustain their fast throughout the day. um, so I guess that's like an idea. I love that question.
I know that. I mean, that was interesting to me because I know a lot of people that fast during that time. that, that's Muslim, and they never really talk about those types of things. Now, I helped somebody write something on the diet that, that they would practice or whatever, and the different times that they could possibly eat. And a lot of it was like rice. I never saw anything, and I'm not saying that it's not there in American literature, that talked about the fig. So because I had done some research in that area, I found that very interesting. So
Awesome. That's cool. And you learn a lot about a culture through the food, right? Through what people eat. That's a huge part of culture and travel.
So what is the culture of your band?
It's super multi faceted. Well, like I said, like I'm a mess, right? I'm from like 3 different continents. I'm still trying to figure out what home really means, but both my drummer and my trombone player are from Japan. So they're born there and have part of their childhood was there, and then grew up the rest of their adolescence and adulthood obviously here. And then my guitar player has some Mexican roots, and then my husband, who's now the bass player, is kind of like a California medley as well. So when I think of like the culture of our band, instead of thinking about these individual things that we all are separately, I think of how together we're like this global unit of, several facets. So I think I guess we're a very Bay cultured band because, it's like that whole discussion we were having about the diversity in our area. So that answers the question.
You told me that y'all have been a band for 11 years, and so that y'all were already a band before COVID. So I know that you were performing and doing all these things. What happened during COVID that you found was a weakness in the band, and COVID allowed you to strengthen that area?
Such a good introspective question. We did have to put up mirrors during COVID and see what was not working for sure. Because all of a sudden, the thing that we did really well, we couldn't do, which was get together and jam and play and write. So all of a sudden, this entire aspect of our relationship is gone. So what we did end up realizing is that there was, and huge part of it is like my lack of, at the time, I'd say like business savviness, and the things that I was really lacking as far as how I could better lead the band and how I could better, like just improve our marketing, improve our image, improve our branding. And all these things started happening during the pandemic, where we actually started having regular band meetings every Tuesday for I want to say almost 2 years straight, until we started being able to get together and perform and play again and rehearse. We did a lot of Zoom shows during the pandemic as well, with masks on outside. And so I'd say that the best thing that came out of that is realizing that we needed to talk beyond music. We needed to talk like we really are a business, because we are in the music industry business. And so I think it's helped us really fine tune our branding, our intention with the music that we're putting out, our timelines on things, like how long does it really take to record, release, and do PR and promo, and find a better team, a more solid team, people we can count on, like have our go-to flyer person, have our go-to website design person, our PR person, our media connects, etc. So I think it helped us pause and really look at the grander scale, and try to find a way for Sweet Haya to become just as solid, digitally as we had been in person at shows. And so it's helped us create a better presence and a more, I think, put together business. So
What I was going to ask you, do you think that um, you were saying that it was mostly where you jammed and performed live together and different things like that? Do you think that COVID allowed y'all to reach a larger and more broader fan base throughout COVID? Did you see any change in how your fan base grew and where it grew throughout COVID?
yes, yes, absolutely. We Because all of a sudden we weren't just about playing locally, and even when we were touring, like you'd target a certain state or a city in a state, but all of a sudden it was like just equal footing, right? Everyone's on the same page, and anyone who has Spotify or YouTube or can access our website all of a sudden was able to connect and see that we're playing on Zoom and doing all these, these virtual shows. And we've done a ton of fundraisers for everything that was going on in 2020, from supporting nonprofits, supporting. I mean, a lot. We did a lot of different things. I'm not gonna name everything, but it allowed us to tap into communities that we weren't really connected with before, but that we found that we had these same goals, and that we wanted to align our strength to become part of a stronger community. Just in a variety of things, like in equal rights movements and activism and feminist movements, and helping, like children with impairments, etc., things like that. That those were not audiences we ever really had before, because we played bars and festivals and places where we wouldn't have had this opportunity to connect. So, and we played a ton of international shows with big corporations that would hire us to do Zoom events for their happy hours, to keep like the culture going in their company. And so we were playing to people in like Berlin and Israel and Australia. We apparently have a following in Australia. I didn't know that. It's like, oh, that's a thing. Oh, cool. And so you find out you have a market in places you didn't know, like people even knew about you. So
Mhm.
uh, that's really cool. That was a good feeling that international reach during the pandemic, despite all the madness. So
Okay. So tell me this. I know that you told me that you was getting married and that your husband is, well, your husband to be is part of the band. How do y'all, and I said y'all, handle disagreements about the music, but try not to discuss it in the relationship?
ah, I can't say we don't, like, we discuss everything in the relationship. Like, such a huge part of our relationship is music, because we also have a French classics duo, we have a blues band together, and so this is just like an extra band that we're together in. But I've found
Everybody don't have extra bands.
what's that?
I said everybody just don't have extra bands.
No, it's sometimes I feel like it might be too much, but we're having a good time doing it. What it does, just like COVID kind of did, it really amplifies the areas of improvement in communication, right? So, um, sometimes when we're really comfortable with a partner, we tend to say things without the filter, or the way that I would say to, say, for example, my guitarist, like, hey, like, do you mind turning down a little bit? Which rarely happens because he's really good at dynamics. But if I were to say that, I'd probably say it like very, but it's true that sometimes if I say it to my husband, I'd be like, maybe you could just turn down, And so it's about like learning how to like put everybody on the same level, whether we have that extra level of intimacy or not, and being professional in those moments that really require us to be. And then when we are just us two, sometimes like we'll be having a nice date night or something, and I'll be like, okay, can we just put the music business stuff aside? And if we're gonna talk music, let's talk about the things we're like, the new musicians that we're excited to discover, or like oh, I just heard the latest Leon Bridges album or something, and like have these conversations about how we're both passionate about music rather than, continue to like, oh, we need to book this and we need to do that. And, because I can quickly get into that mode. So it's good to have like that boundary, you know?
Well, since you have so many bands going on,
It's
tell
busy.
me about your latest project.
Yeah, so my husband and I, we have this kind of retro blues project that we started literally the week the pandemic hit. We had our first show, and then we went on a hiatus for 2 years, started rehearsing again last year, and we started playing again. So that project is called Grace and the Grit,
Mhm.
and it's a bass player, Adam Martinez, and a harmonica player, Ryan Walker, and our
I,
drummer.
I'll make sure to link it to the video.
Thank you so much. Yeah, and Matt Ponzino on the drums, and then Austin, my husband, Austin Geiger on the guitar. So in Sweet HayaH he plays bass, and then in Grace and the Great he plays lead guitar, and then I sometimes play rhythm guitar, but I mainly just sing in that band. Well, and I play melodica. I like the melodica, like an accordion.
So, how many different instruments do you play?
So my first instrument was actually the keys. Piano was my first instrument. In France, I grew up learning classical piano, and though
I
I,
like
yes, it's such an amazing way to go ahead. Sorry,
relaxing.
it's so relaxing, and my favorite thing playing piano is actually just improvising, like relaxing meditational music. And then, later on when I got into songwriting, I was writing a lot of ballads. I wrote a little bit, like a few kind of ska reggae beats on there too that we ended up covering with Sweet HayaH. Um, and so I'd say like my original instrument was piano, but I've kind of set it aside the last few years to learn guitar, and then I started learning guitar to kind of play rhythm and back up, my guitarists when they wanted to do lead, and then I play a little melodica with our French project because it has that kind of like accordion vibe, so it goes really well with the French classics like Edith Piaf and all those. So yeah, I love playing the drums, but I'm terrible. One day I would like to be a drummer as well. It's like on my list, my bucket list.
So, which instrument do you feel that is the most strenuous on your hands?
Strenuous on my hands, probably guitar, because I grew up playing piano, so my fingers I think have the muscles already like developed. But with guitar, it's a whole set of new muscles, the way that you utilize your fingers. Oh, bless you. Um, it's definitely more challenging for me, and both like Devin from Sweet High and Austin always tell me like you just gotta build up those calluses, and I build them up and then I just stop and then I build them up again, and then I'm like so it's about consistency, and like it it's something that I probably have to build up, so hopefully I'll
Okay.
have to do that. But yeah.
Well, I thank you for coming. I want you to give everybody the name of your latest project, your social media handle, and anywhere they can find you.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Ronnie. Yeah, well, definitely would love to hear more from your audience as well, and hopefully we've connected in some way through this with your listeners. I really hope so, because for me, music is really important, but the connection we make with people is my favorite thing about the music we make, because that's what makes the world a better place, is establishing these relationships. So hopefully we'll be able to see you also sometime at a show. We might have to come out to your side of the world.
I come to California all the time. I'll be
Yes, come out to see us. Come out to see us.
there.
We'll be playing yeah, this summer. Later on we've got some big shows in the works. Actually, I'm not allowed to say yet, but when they get announced I can definitely let you know.
Okay.
But yeah, we're easy to find too, like sweethayah.com. It's sweet and then HAYAH.com. And then we're on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter, on Bandcamp. all those things. YouTube, YouTube, Spotify. And now our music's also on Apple Music and on Google, so we're pretty easy to find. So, and our latest single is called "Can't Get Comfortable," and so I hope, yeah, folks to get a chance to listen to that. And I'd love to hear if you hear anything back from your listeners, and we'd love to hear what you think about it too.
Okay, okay, I will tell you. Yeah, her. You can find her on Spotify, on Instagram, on all those different things. I know I just mixed it all up together at, say it again, sweethaya.com. And
Yes,
what's the handle again?
it's at Sweet Haya, so SweetHayah. So that means a
Okay.
sweet life.
All right. Sweet Life.
Yeah.
All right. And of course, y'all know where y'all can find us at. And we will see you next week.
Thank you
Bye.
so much. Thank you so much. I
Are
really
you so
appreciate it.
welcome? You're welcome.